Okay, well, we got a little bit of normalcy this week with the Pocket Change market report. It was kind of all over the place the last few weeks because I was gone for the weekend, but we're back, baby, to talk about more errors and varieties that are being found and cherry-picked out there in the wild today. So what exactly does that mean, right? The wild, we've heard that before. Well, it's anything that you could find via coin roll hunting, pocket change searching, going through your kid's piggy bank, I guess. Just got to make sure that you replace it with something, more meaningful, like trading that penny for $1 if you did find something. But also, anything that you can cherry pick from a local coin shop or a coin show, or maybe on eBay itself, because that's where a lot of the sales do come from, also works as well. So errors and varieties, we talk about them. They're all what I consider raw. That means ungraded. We don't typically talk about graded coins on here because at the end of the day, it may not just make any sense to send some of these out, considering that some of the coins, typically sell for $10 to $20, for example, and you go and invest $20 to $30 to grade that specific coin. You may end up with a coin still worth $20 by the time it comes back from, like, say, a PCGS or NGC grading company. Or Annex, for that matter. Annex, a little bit less expensive, but, you got to pick your battles. Is this a coin that you want to grade? Or is this a coin that you just want to hold on to, add it to your collection, or possibly sell on eBay for a nice, tidy sum? All right, so in this video, we're going to take a look at the last, I would say, about 24 to 48 hours of eBay completed sales. This is kind of be, a supplement. Actually, there's going to be a supplemental video that I'm going to be releasing midweek to talk about a few of the top kind of like errors and varieties, call it a PCMR, 1A or 1B or whatever. Because, we do look at the last 48 hours of completed sales, but how about them sales earlier in the week? All right, we got to show some love there as well. All right, so stay tuned for that. Again, last 1 or 2 days worth of sales all wrapped up in a nice bow. We actually have a huge PCMR. Got to get caught up and hook you guys up with the good stuff. We got 38 coins to talk about. Lots of amazing coin and currency errors and varieties. So without further ado, how about we just go ahead and jump right in to the pool because we know the water is warm. And how about a brand new 2021 Washington crossing the Delaware quarter, all right? So this particular seller didn't have a very good obverse picture, but that's okay. When we look at this image right here, we all can identify that this is indeed the newest release from the U.S. Mint into circulation. These coins have come up with a lot of neat little die chips, all right? And, upon closer review here, we do have a die chip on the obverse here, right on the hair ponytail area. And then over here on the reverse, we do have a little die chip here. These, in retrospect, are very minor, but there are collectors for these type of coins. Here's another one on the reverse, right here on the little tip of Washington's hat. You'll see a nice size kind of like die chip. It kind of looks like a jester's cap. If you wanted to, I guess, describe it that way. But yeah, there's a few die chips on this coin. But get this. This example sold for $12.45. Yeah, the images aren't too fantastic. They're a little bit on the dark side, but the close-ups are, they work for this particular listing. And that's actually a good chunk of money for this coin. Great job by the seller pointing out and showing all the close-ups of the die chips on this coin. So make sure you look out for these, especially you East Coasters, because these are showing up on the Philadelphia Minted 2021s. All right, the next one that we have here is quite neat and very interesting. All right, so there's 3 different printings for every note produced today. You have a first print, which is the front main design of the note. You have the second print, which is the reverse, and then the third print is affectionately any of the serial numbers, district seals, anything of that that line of design work is going to be printed last on there. But in this particular case, you have a full set of serial here on the right side, but however, we're missing a lot of digits. And based off of the overall look of the note, you don't see the impression of any sort of embossing, which indicates that there was some serial numbers printed onto this note in this particular area. So what we have here is called an obstruction print error. It just means that there is maybe, a piece of paper that had fallen onto this piece of this sheet before it was printed. So you're obviously going to get an omission of whatever is supposed to be printed in that area. You don't see this too often on newer notes, although I've seen them on notes as new as, I believe, 2009. We've seen a few $1 Federal Reserve notes with obstructed printing that are quite neat. This particular note, can't believe it's raw, sold for $193. The reverse of the note is normal. It's not a cutting error or anything like that. It's just the person that scanned this note didn't scan it all the way to the edge. So, I mean, that's a good deal of money. This looks like something that belongs in a graded holder anyways, so I have no doubt that one day, this will end up in a PCGS currency holder or PMG. Remains to be seen. These are always good buys. If you're looking to pick up something that's relatively unique, and again, it's one of those notes that you just can't believe they're not in a graded holder yet. But get this thing graded. Comes back maybe a mid-state 63, with good paper quality. It'll probably double the value of the note, somewhere around there. So that's another way of kind of making money off of this, is by recognizing relatively rare errors. The next one that we have here, and I wanted to update you guys on these wide AM Lincoln cents. Of course, we have them from 98 to 2000. So we have a 3-year stretch of this pretty common variety, except for the 99. That is way tougher, and that's why they sell for a few $100 on occasion. But 1998, one of the most populous, wide AMs. The 2000, I would say, has a leg up in just overall numbers of production. But as you can see, there's a pretty nice wide gap. Note the condition. It circulated probably an AU 55 at best. Here's a little bit of a close-up of that spacing between the A and M in America, which is what you're going to look for in this particular instance. The photos are a little bit pixelated because that's what is shown on the seller listing. However, it shows just enough detail to help identify this wide AM as that. So in this condition, I'm happy to say that it's still sold for $7.74. And all the pricing, by the way, has shipping in it. So this person, I think, charged like 75 cents or something. So it's obviously going to be a white envelope type of shipping method. All right, so we always talk about an off-center coin in this list. We have a few of them. This is a 1998 Philadelphia Lincoln Memorial cent that is off-center approximately 25%. This is one of your more common date off-center struck coins. So anything from 98 to 2001 is where we see quite a few of these in the marketplace. They're not overtly rare by themselves, but if you're looking to do like a date set of off-center struck coins with a full date, this would be a great example right here. This one sold for $16.18. This one's quite interesting. The moment I saw this, I'm like, I think this person has something here. But I don't think it's either a variety or an error, but more so a changeover type of scenario. So we have two $1 Federal Reserve notes. They're relatively new. The one in the bottom is a 2013 series. The note on top is a little bit newer at 2017. And really, what you want to look at is the placement of the serial numbers in conjunction with the large green district or the treasury seal that you see right there. I mean, there is comparatively a lot more space between the serial numbers on this 2013 to the top of the seal. But if you look at the 2017, the placement of the serial is real close to this Washington, D.C. text, But look how much room is in between that and the green seal. I think this is simply just a changeover design difference. Again, not an error or variety, but they just changed up the spacing in certain kind of design types of these notes and the serial and the district seals and everything like that. But I'm willing to bet that all of the notes of 2017 has the same kind of width or distance tolerance between the serial number and the district seal. But you can plainly see from one series to another just the overall amount of width from one to the other. So that's quite interesting. And this person actually had one of each note. You're buying 2 notes in this lot and sold it as kind of a unique. He didn't term it as a changeover, like a transitional or anything like that. But the seller did say that one district seal is a lot lower than the other. And, it's just pretty neat. This one sold for $15 for the 2 $1 bills. So that's interesting if you're looking, for kind of like a changeover sampler. You could do something like this. They're not worth a ton of money, but you guys do know that if you wanted to sell something really similar to this, you could do that and make $10-15 as it sits. All right, so we have another wide AM, this time a 2000. This is, again, the more common out of the, between the 98 and the 2000. This is the more common type to find. They're not rare at all. So for those of you lucky enough to live like east of the Mississippi River, you find these all the time. Another wide AM, this one sold for $15 condition-wise. It's a little bit better, probably a mid-state 61, red-brown, somewhere around there. But there you go. The market is quite strong on these. When these, just 12 to 18 months ago, people were struggling to sell these for like $5. All right, so that's not bad and good, strong sale. All right, so make sure you take a look at your scrap silver. Morgans and Peace dollar coins are commonly hoarded for their silver, all right, especially low ball type examples, cleaned examples. This is a 1924, one of the more common dates of the series of Peace dollars. However, as we could see, there's a slight rotation on that reverse die. So it's ever so slight, but you're probably talking about maybe 10-15 degrees at most. But this just goes to show you could turn a $28 to $30 Morgan dollar or Peace dollar into something that's nearly triple the amount of money just based off of a little minor error, which is that die rotation. This example sold for $113 for crying out loud. Jeez. The coin obviously has been cleaned. It just has the unnatural appearance of any sort of original luster or anything like that. So, plus you might see it scratch right here. But overall, the minor error designation wins the day on this one. $113. Yeah, it would certainly be worth it to check some of your old obsolete silver. And that could be Mercury dimes, Walking Liberties, Peace and Morgans, things like that. You're going to find maybe a few of these out there. And this is a very minor rotated die. But if you pitch it and sell it well, then you'll do good. You can make a little money at it. Here's another off-center Lincoln Memorial, another 1998. Again, this has a much more full date presentation. If it did have a mid-mark, you could see that as well. It's in relatively nice condition as well. Full red, no wear whatsoever. And this one sold for, let's see, $19. And it looks like it's off-center by like 25-30%. All right, we have a few clips here for you, starting out with a 1980D. Now, this one has a, kind of a funny kind of edge pattern. You can even see it on this image right here. It looks like someone was playing around with this and tried to do maybe some reading on there. But obviously, the clip is the fascinating point of this one. Although someone probably saw this and they're like, oh, yeah, that's pretty neat. But this is just damage on here. So that's post-mint type of work that's been done on this coin. There's some pittings and nicks and stuff on the reverse of the coin. It's a Denver, a little bit tougher date for Eclipse, And this one sold for $7.23. And the same seller had this one as well. It's a 1982 large date Denver Minted Lincoln Memorial. This one also has a clip that is eerily like in the same position as the previous coin. You even see the Blakesley effect on here a little bit better. It doesn't have that weird kind of edge damage. And this one sold also for $6.98, pretty close to the previous example. All right, so the 2020 shenanigans continues, and we have a Salt River Bay. All right, so this is one of those coins that you could find like feeder finger type stuff. There's even a few minor reverse doubled dies that's on this coin as well. But this one has if you're not looking too closely at the coin, this one you could easily miss. But this one has a little bit of a die clash right here under the ear of Washington. You can just see that right there. So that's a clashing of the reverse through the branches of that plant. And, it's relatively minor. The seller was asking $10.99. He did accept a best offer. I would speculate somewhere between like $5 and $8 for this one. Now, this is a coin you don't typically see ungraded, all right? So we really do have a genuine 1922 plain Lincoln Memorial cent, all right? So these coins were only produced in Denver. They're all supposed to have a Denver mint mark, but there are a number of them that were struck sans the mint mark, all right? And that's either as a result of like a clogged die or something. But this one is also referred to as the weak reverse. I don't know if this is die number 1 or 2 or whichever one the weak reverse is. But you could just see the overly deteriorated dies on both the reverse and obverse of this coin. This is a consummate key date that is on everybody's list. This one looks to be in pretty remarkable shape for its age and for not being graded. It looks like it's about a net VF 20, 25-ish. In spite of its deteriorated or worn die appearance, this actually looks to be a little bit higher grade than what is originally anticipated. This coin sold for $475, which I think is a very fair rate on something like this. And these do come up on occasion. I mean, they're quite rare to find in like wheat cent bags and things like that. But you never know where something like this is going to pop up. But you can plainly see no Denver mint mark. So completely abraded or filled dies. All right, so I've gotten questions about something like this. All right, so this is actually a 1928 G $2 legal tender note. So it's supposed to have red seals. However, this one has yellow. All right. And there's only one thing that could cause the yellowing of this particular legal tender note. And that's simply bleach. If this gets washed in your clothes and you use bleach, that'll turn the red seal yellow. It happens all the time. I see it. It's not an error. I want to let you guys know. Another telltale sign is that when you introduce bleach to the type of currency paper that was used, even to this day, it's actually going to make the note appear a little bit translucent, almost as if there was some PVC that had attacked in the paper of the note, which will give it kind of like a translucency to the note. Condition-wise, it's in pretty rough shape. It's got a chewed up corner right here, completely missing. And if you needed more proof, there's more of that translucency in certain areas of the note. This one is beat up, and I'm willing to bet that if you were able to hold the note in hand outside of a plastic holder or anything like that, this thing is probably really flimsy. Even notes that have circulated quite a bit over time will still have that crispness as long as they haven't been washed or anything like that. So I wanted to let you guys know, unfortunately, there were a total of 26 bids that ramped this one up to $71, and I'm sad to say that this is not a genuine BEP error. As a matter of fact, this thing is worth exactly $2. So keep that in mind. If you find these, that's what you have. Now here's an honest looking 1961 Jefferson nickel. This one has a clip right there. Go figure. And then you have a little bit of a Blakesley, so you got the flattening of this opposite edge rim. And you also see it here on the reverse as well. All right, pretty easy. What's cool is you have a little bit of a improper alloy mix. So you have this kind of like woody striation surface area on here. This one sold for $4.99. It's a very shallow curve clip, so they're not worth the most amount of money in a world of clipped errors. But this one right here still sold for a few bucks, so that's not bad. Here's a $10 Federal Reserve note. It's a 1985. It's in really nice shape, so I imagine that this one was discovered way back in the day, possibly out of a BEP pack. But what we have here is a partial back-to-front wet ink transfer error. So when these notes were printed on the sheet, the sheets will stack as they're being printed, and they're ejected out of that printing surface area. And the ink is still a little bit wet. All right, so when you have that touch the subsequent other sheet that has already been laid down, you're going to get just a little bit of a transfer of that ink, and that's what we have here. This particular note sold for $171.69. Again, this is a note that's really easy to sell for all the money raw. All right, in spite of the fact that it did sell for quite a bit of money, you really don't need to grade these, and I normally would say it's not recommended. Now, for the full 100% transfers, I would certainly grade those, and especially if they're really wet and very dark. Those are just a lot more dramatic, and error collectors love those. There's the reverse of the note. Nothing to point out here. All right, really simple. 1945D. This thing is worn and looks like it was found in a wheat cent bag or possibly in circulation, but we have a nice delamination with also maybe just a little tab of lamination still attached on there. It's small in size, but you know, it's things like these. You could still make a mountain out of a molehill. This one did sell for $5. So be on the lookout for anything like this. That's, I mean, as minor as it is, it's still worth money. Now this is an off-center Jefferson nickel. Now we don't have any sort of date on there, and that's what a lot of off-center error collectors strive to own, are actual off-center coins with a full date and mint mark. There's a lot of date collectors of these type of coins, and that's where a lot of the desirability falls on these. But this one, because of how far off-center it is, it's like 85% off-center, is still rather dramatic in spite of the absence of a date. This one sold for $11.59. That's a cheap enough amount of money that it's just a great oddity to add to your collection. So we do have a few listings from this particular seller. Actually, one of my favorites, and he's selling weekly, and he sells a lot. Okay, so he goes by the name JIMMACR. Jim Mac R, I guess. But take a look at his listings. Okay, we have a few listings on our report with absolutely amazing photos, and you know, you could probably model your sales after some of these fantastic photo examples. But we have a 1960D. This one is actually a small date, so you can see that small little tail of the 6 right there. It's not quite long enough. But this one right here has a little bit of an RPM, a repunch mint mark that is east of the primary mint mark. This one is RPM number 107. And this one sold for $8.36. It's relatively minor, but I'm sure Jim looked through, you know, some rolls of 1960s to find this, and he probably found a few of them, you know, probably like anywhere from maybe 5 to 15 of them. But if you could sell them for, you know, $7-8 a pop, they all add up. So this is the only lot that looks notable this week, but we have a lot of 6 off-center struck Lincoln Memorial cents, and you know, I always tell people look out for lots, especially if you can pick them up at a reasonable rate, because you could always turn around, maybe add a few coins to your collection, and then sell the rest and then try and like make money off of it. This one sold for what I feel like is a strong amount of money, considering that none of the coins have a readable date. This one sold for $35.97, which puts it at nearly $6 a coin. All right, so there's not a lot of meat on the bone left on this one. But as far as just adding more to your collection, this is a good lot to pick up. I would say this is the first time I've ever talked about an emergency note on the list, Hawaii or South Africa wise. But we have a Hawaii $1 bill here, and it's a star note. It's a replacement note. These are always desirable, especially with the stars. Any star note from like the 1, 5, 10, and 20 for the Hawaii overprint is just very desirable. What's cool is you can even see the crop mark line right here. And this one sold for $285.99. And yes, they are worth that kind of money. This note is also in pretty nice shape as well. Okay, so this one took a little bit of circulation, so I'm more than surprised that this one wasn't found earlier. But we have a 1974 $1 Federal Reserve note with an inverted third print. All right, so everything is upside down. This is not something that you typically see today. That would entail the whole entire sheet being upside down when it was printed. But 1974 is one of the common dates for inverted thirds. So this one right here, you can see just all sorts of staining and all that with the folds. It was folded quarters, so it might have been in someone's wallet at one point. The back of the note also exhibits some of that wear and staining. But even through all that, it did sell for $139.50. In much higher grades, these notes typically command upwards of like $500. So, the value is just off the charts for things like this. Now, this is just your run-of-the-mill star note. It's a 2013, so it's a very, very recent note. But if you do your research, I'm happy to say that you can make some money off of these star notes. Now, they're not all winners, all right? You've come across a star note and you're like, man, this is really special. The star is just neat. And then you look online, you're like, oh, it only sold for $1.50. Well, it's probably because it's part of a large run of star notes that were produced for that particular district. This is a New York B star note, and this one right here is part of a run of 250,000 notes, which is very small. Now, the note does have some condition issues. It does have a partial teller stamp. It's circulated. You can see fold lines here in the middle. Some waviness to the paper just indicates that this is a good solid VF type note. So some would say it's not even worth selling, but this is a note right here because of its low run that still carries some value. And through 14 bids, this one sold for $19.99. The same note in crisp uncirculated condition, like straight out of the BEP pack, probably commands like $100 to $200, all right, and then much more if it's graded. All right, so make sure you look through your proof sets. Now, this is a 53. It's a much tougher proof set to find, and just affordability-wise, you can't just like buy 53 proof sets just so you can cherry pick through them. But this is the Lincoln Cent out of there. The reverse does have some nice reddish toning as well. And this one is a doubled die obverse. You can see the doubling in the 1 and 9 right here. Pretty nice. It's also a Cherry Picker's Guide variety. It is the FS101, and it's also doubled die obverse number 1 as well. This one sold for $47.95, which is just a strong amount of money for this coin. All right, here's my favorite. Well, not really my favorite, but it's a coin that comes up very frequently on the completed eBay listings. But we have the good old In God We Rust Kansas State quarter. These are all, of course, Philadelphia struck examples with some strike throughs. You can actually, on this example, see the struck through grease area. All the star bursting right here on the back of Washington's head and on the front. And usually it affects some of these letters here in the motto, "In God We Trust." Now, this was struck through, but it didn't completely annihilate all of the letters, but because of just the overall round-the-clock strike-through appearance, this one gets bonus points, I guess. This one sold for $6.99. So still, this is an error type that appeals to actually a quite big audience, because these continuously sell for $5 to $10 every week. More silver to search. This is a 1921 Philadelphia Morgan dollar. Of course, one of the most common ever Morgan dollars. By themselves are not worth a whole heck of a lot other than silver melt. But this one right here, ladies and gentlemen, has a couple of nice strike-throughs. Struck through some sort of like metal debris or wood or something that causes this. Nice clean example right here, by the way. Probably like an XF45. And this one sold for $52. So this is a nice quick double up on that silver melt into something that's a little bit more meaningful. And then you buy another Morgan silver dollar, right? With that extra profit. All right, so we have a few listings courtesy of Carl Omaha, which, as you guys know, is on our live coin Q&A panel. So this is, aside from Jim that we talked about earlier, Carl sells a ton of varieties, and he goes through BU rolls like they're going out of style, but he also takes some of the most masterful photos that you will ever see on eBay coins. And we have a 1961 Lincoln Memorial cent. This is actually the highlight coin of the week. It also has a delamination, and guess what? Here it is. It's the saved piece. So this is he told me, he sent me a message that yes, I did include that little delamination piece in its own separate little 2x2 holder. But probably more impressive, and I found quite a few of these. I probably have another maybe 15 or 20 of this particular variety, and I sold a lot of them early last year, and they have over doubled in value. It's the 61D over horizontal D RPM. Holy smokes, this is a big one. I sold a lot of these for between $13 and like $18. Okay, and they're all BU, came from BU rolls, but they're not $13 to $18 anymore, or whatever value range I said. This coin sold for $35. And I'm thinking it probably might have sold for a little bit more if it wasn't for the lamination peel. I don't know. Maybe it sold for more because of the lamination peel. But this is a highly desired repunch mint mark, and they are trending up these days. Very rarely do I see them sell for under $30 unless they're like very, very circulated. Here's another one from Carl in 1959D. We have another repunched mint mark. He's going at it again with the mint state rolls, but this one is the D over D over D. I had to research this one. It's the RPM number 5. And it's also the Wexler's RPM number 2. All right, so they got two different attribution numbers. It's also a stage C. So it still has the little die scratch that runs right in between the Y on its little, bars that go out diagonally on the Y. Plus it also has the reverse die scratch as well. This one is a slightly rotated RPM. You can see the split serifs here, but this part right here is the most magical part. This one is also a southwest, slightly rotated repunch right there. Pretty neat. Very, very dramatic coin. This one sold for $8, ladies and gentlemen. Look out for this. And then the last one for Carl Omaha this week is going to be a 1969S. No, it's not the big double die Avers FS101, but this one is a, relatively close second place finisher in terms of the type of variety it is. It's another repunched mint mark. Nice mid-state condition. Slight little bit, I guess, maybe a tilt or a rotated RPM. You can see the split right here on the S. Nothing dramatic, And this one's RPM number 3 for this date. And this one sold for $17. So go ahead and check out Carl Omaha's eBay store. He's got a ton of stuff if you're looking to add to your variety collection. In addition, he does fantastic photography work. He does use, several different types of cameras, all right, in addition to a microscope. We do have a couple off-center type of Roosevelts. This one right here is probably more of a broad strike because you still have a pretty nice defined edge right here. But this was minted with the absence of a collar. So the metal flow has to go somewhere. It goes out. This is what they call an uncentered broad strike, which means you have more metal flow on one side than the other. This one looks to be a 1981P. For note, it does have a scratch going across the back. And ladies and gentlemen, this one sold for $17.99. We got another one right here. This one is either a broad strike or slightly off center, 2003P. Now this is a really tough date. Anything past like 2001 in Roosevelt dimes of any sort of error, whether it's a broad strike or off center strike, it gets really tough. And this one commanded a lot more money than the previous coin. This one sold for $42.55. Again, these are collected by date from some of those specialists that like this sort of thing. All right, so any sort of statehood quarter with an error, especially an off-center one, these are very desired. Now, I will say this right off the bat. This one does have a good deal of damage. It's also worth mentioning that this one was sold by Empire Coin and Valuables. And this will give me a little bit of I guess, opportunity to let anybody know if your coin is highlighted and you want me to add in your logo or something for your business, because we have a lot of coin dealers and stuff that sell on eBay. I could certainly do that for you and also give you a shout out for your coin. But this one right here is a 2000 Philadelphia, New Hampshire, off center by about 25%, maybe 30%. And this one sold for $49.95, and that's even with this kind of edge damage here. Here's another one right here. Instead, it's a North Carolina. This is indeed from a different seller, by the way. It's a 2001 Philadelphia. Off-center by a smidge, like 10%, and this one sold for $29.95. Here's a little bit tougher date of off-center coins, and it's a 1996 Philadelphia Lincoln Memorial that's off-center by about 55%. So, like I had mentioned, 98 to 2001, your most common of years for off-center struck errors. This is a little bit outside that range. A little bit tough to find in good shape. This one sold for $23.98. So if you're at a coin shop or a show and someone's trying to sell these, and I've seen them before, sell them for like $5-10, and they're outside of that 98 to 2001 date range of commonality, I guess, pick it up. That's going to be a really good flip if you want it. So here's a nice little update to the West Point values. All right, like I had mentioned in a video that's probably close to being a year old, there are certain West Point ATB quarters from 19 and 2020 that are drifting upwards in value. The American Memorial Park is the most valuable out of the bunch. This one right here looks like it came right out of circulation, so it's nothing. As far as grade, it's nothing to really write home to mother about. This one sold for $34.99. It just seems to me that these things continuously creep up in value. You know, maybe they'll go up 1 or 2% a month. But, you know, what's this coin going to be a year from now? $50? It's really hard to say. I'm still trying to figure out why this particular West Point ATB quarter has been outperforming all the other ones. I'm still trying to figure that out. I am not sure, but this is very strong money. If you got these and you don't have like any personal attachment to them and you want to sell them for a tank of gas, you could probably do that right now. We're going to end it off. Actually, we have 4 coins left, or 4 different types of collectibles. We have 2 currency, 2 paper money, which we're going to talk about now, the final 2 of the list. And they're both relatively modern. I mean, this is a 2001. $1 Federal Reserve note with a gutter fold, which means that, there was just a wrinkle in the sheet before it was printed. And yeah, that's a pretty wide gutter on there, but this one sold for $155. Apparently, before the second print was done, the wrinkle was stretched out, and that's why you have a pretty big margin over here. So this is a pretty remarkable note. Hey, here's a 2006 $1 Fed Reserve note. This one actually doesn't have any of that third print on the front of the note. As a matter of fact, it got printed on the back. How crazy is that? But this is a pretty neat error on a otherwise new-ish type of note. I mean, 2006s are still out there. They're still quite plentiful in circulation. Oh boy, this one sold for $337.44. That is insane. And the fact that this is not in a graded holder continues to boggle my mind. But this is probably, I would imagine, one of the tougher dates for this third print on the reverse error, which you don't see that often. So this, I'm surprised this thing's not $1,000. But if it gets graded in a PCGS currency holder or PMG, gangway. That's going to be a pricey note. All right, in the last few coins, here's another one to look for in your scrap silver. It's a honest, somewhat innocent 1921, very plentiful Morgan dollar. But take a look at this. That has a huge crack right here. You can even see it on the reverse as well. Probably a cracked planchet. And it's just, this thing's insane. This was an old discovery at one point. It's part of the Gene L. Henry hoard. It sold for $83.44. So if you see something like this in your scrap silver, I would say pull it out. It's worth a lot more than the melt value of that coin. And the last one for the Pocket Change Market Report for this week is going to be a 1999 Jefferson nickel. That is a centered broad strike. This bad boy is probably about the size of a standard U.S. quarter. It's that big. But this one right here is also a nice shape. All right, and with the condition and the centered nature of this broad strike error, it's extremely desired by collectors. This one sold for $34.49. Truly magnificent error. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to go ahead and do it. Glad to have this back on your Saturday morning / afternoon. I wish you guys the best of luck if you guys are going to go hunting out there today or in the coming week. Stay tuned for that little small miniature Pocket Change Market Report midweek style, along with the new revised market report for modern coins, which will be coming on either tonight or Monday morning. But that's going to go ahead and do it. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Hopefully you guys got a few takeaways from this video. As always, don't forget to like, share, or subscribe if you enjoyed today's video. And make sure you hit that bell for instant notifications. Coinaholics, we are discovering together, and I hope you guys discover your piece of treasure as well. Take care, and I'll see you on the next coin video.